If you're a mid-level to C-suite leader who wants to own your growth and figure out your next small, brave move to achieve your leadership goals, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Small Brave Moves podcast, a weekly deep dive on how to be braver in leadership and in life for exceptional results. I'm your host, Nicole Bianchi, best-selling author, certified master executive coach, NSA certified speaking professional, chief bravery officer, and tough talk expert. If you're ready to become a better, braver, and more authentic leader, let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Small Brave Moves podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Heather Younger, a leading expert on caring leadership and active listening at work. As the founder and CEO of Employee Fanatics, she has helped Fortune 100 companies transform their workplace cultures by truly listening to their employees. Three-time best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and trusted voice in Forbes and Fast Company, and more. Heather has read over 30,000 employee surveys and led 100-plus focus groups to uncover what truly drives engagement and connection at work. In this episode, we'll dive into Heather's Art of Active Listening framework and the small brave moves leaders can make to create more trust, clarity, and impact. So whether you want to strengthen that team communication or navigate tough conversations, Heather's insight will change how you show up as a leader. Please welcome Heather to the Small Brave Moves podcast. Heather, it is just amazing to have a fellow CSPer. I feel like we got to go CSP, CSP, CSP.
CSP.
So for those that are listening, just a reminder, the certified speaking professional, less than 16% of speakers hold this designation worldwide. And it's such an honor. It was an honor to walk the stage with Heather. And she is doing some incredible work that we're excited to share more about. But first, Heather, how about you share a little bit about who you are and what you do, and give us one thing that you're really proud of creating in the work that you do.
Ooh, really proud of creating in the work. Because it's like immediately the thing that comes to me for the real proud of creating are my children. Because they teach me how to lead so much better than I do now. And I just learn a lot from them. I have 4 children, ages 14 to 21. So I'd say, like, as far as I don't know, something that's creating, I guess it's like me in a co-created place, right? And so I'm excited. Professionally, I have to say, probably just putting the caring leadership content out in the world and trying to be the embodiment and just spreading that about. I would say that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. What I do, my biggest thing is I help organizations listen more effectively, show more care to the people that drive their business forward, and really give them kind of the steps to take to demonstrate care instead of just having it be this fuzzy, elusive thing.
So why did that become what was the pivotal moment that became the important part of your work, that was like, this is what I'm going to do?
I don't know about you, but I feel like oftentimes change happens through adversity. And we either are challenge ourselves to be our best versions, or we stay stuck in the muck. And I was stuck in the muck for a short period of time in the middle of a merger. And the merger, being in a merge situation or a reorg situation was a tough enough spot. But I think in that scenario of being in a merge situation, there was also a layoff that took place. And that was the thing that thrust me into kind of, what are you going to do with your life? But in the merger, I really do think that is where my calling became really clear for me, because in it, the culture was going downhill. There were like 4 or 5 different companies coming together. Nobody knew who each other was. Nobody trusted each other. Fear was taking hold. I felt the fear, but I instead of just like feeling it and staying in it and just like going into a pit and staying there, I made a decision to remove myself from it by trying to be the change I was seeking. So I wanted a more positive work environment. I wanted people to trust each other. I wanted people to stop coming to me asking what was happening, and I wanted the leaders to start talking to their people. And so I created an employee engagement council and created bringing people together. Like, what can we do? What can we do to break down these walls that are really dragging us down and start to create more connection and hopefully gain more trust in that merged environment? And I just realized right in that moment that I needed to be kind of like the voice of the voiceless, the person who was like making sense of the chaos, the person who would just skill up and give empathy and things like that. I know that was who I was. And I realized in that moment that was kind of my calling. So
I love that. So stuck in the muck, that is such a great phrase because there have been times, I call it like out of sync. We've been out of sync or stuck in the muck and we don't realize it. So the beautiful part about your journey is you realized it and then you chose to do, you made that intentional choice, right? To make that small brave move and do something completely different, which is so impressive. So talk to me about I love the art of listening, the art of active listening, and you've created a framework. And when I think about our audience and that mid-level to C-suite leaders, I think about so many times we have this need to be the expert or this need to we have to always feel like we have to be in control or lead. And sometimes we don't always listen, right? Or really practice or understand what is a process or a framework for us to really engage in listening that makes sense and that's impactful for others. And so I'd love for you to share more about your 5-step framework for us.
yeah, so the framework is called the cycle of active listening, and it was something that I kind of put together as I was working in the customer experience space. And so it started there, and I was leading large, like, account management efforts, doing customer experience, and I could just see how when we would act a certain way, like relate to certain things and talk to our customers and listen to our customers, and it was all like works in progress. Like it wasn't something that was just thought up in the thin air. It was actually something that we did over and over, and some things didn't do well, and certain things we did. And so after realizing that the framework worked in like above organization setting where the organization, me representing the organizational leaders, would communicate back to our customers and then of course to our employees what it was that they said to us, what it was we were going to do about it. Then I started to realize, wait a second, when you can use this same cycle active listening, even just in one-on-one interactions or in team interactions, outside of work, at home, we could utilize this so that people could really feel seen and heard. So it's 5 steps, and it starts with recognizing the unsaid. And that really, the long and short of it is just recognizing the nonverbals that are happening in our environment, the tones, the tenors, the body language that's happening around us on calls and meetings, all over the place, really, at home, right? And are we recognizing the things that are there, or are we so busy with our heads down on checklists and things that we have to do that we aren't recognizing what is in front of us? And so because of that, we're having huge blind spots that are happening, and things are going longer and longer and longer without being resolved. People are leaving, or trust is being broken, and it's because we haven't paused long enough to recognize what's being said right in front of us. But it's not. The next thing is, after we recognize the unsaid, it's going into seeking to understand. And we heard Covey frame this seeking to understand way early on, and I just took it and kind of decided to lean in a little further into it and help people understand that when we are seeking, we have to first evaluate our motivations, because oftentimes we are seeking, let's say we're sitting across from someone and we want to know their truth, but we really only want to know their truth for our benefit. We want to know their truth because we got to get to the bottom so we can make the sale, so we can not lose them, so we can, right? And I always say, like, I'm not naive. We have to do all those things. Business metrics are extremely important, but we have to first go into the seeking to serve the other and not to get something from the other. If we go into serve, we're going to really get to the bottom of their truth, and then we can solve for their truth, their real truth, not our assumed truth about what it is we think they want. We actually can find out what they really want. Seeking that way is super fertile. But I think, no matter what, you just have to evaluate what your motivations are. After you seek, then you decode. So now you got all this information you gathered while you've leaned into them, right? And instead of just going straight to what most people want to do, and that's like to action, you have to pause. You have to research, you have to process, you have to break down. There's so many things that you need to do in the decoding phase. This is where I think the beauty is in the framework. Because I don't know about you, I have an affinity to actions. I want to act. I want to act because I just need to get out of the way. I want to act because I want them to know I love and care for them.
Yeah.
I want to act because it's evidence of my action. The action just says that I'm going to do something. I'm not just going to sit on my hands. There's a lot of reasons I want to act, but what I really failed to understand, and I noticed again over the years, that was the power in the decoding phase, is I begin to give the people who ordinarily are on the losing side of the power equation, either employees or customers, I fail to give them their power back when I don't pause to do the research, pause to process what they're saying, pause to see if the issue is bigger than I thought. I don't serve me or the team or the organization or the customer if I don't take that time, because there's so much we uncover in that decoding phase. So decoding is important. It's extremely important. And I talk about how to kind of ways to do that, how to give people space to do that. And then we go to action. And this really is where, like, as an attorney, like, I have this attorney thing, just proving this evidence thing I have to give people.
Yeah.
And action really is where the evidence takes hold, right? Like, people see that and they go, oh, wow, like, I asked them to do this thing and I see they change that thing.
Yeah.
And so they can see the evidence that their feedback, that the voices they used had an impact on me and or the team or the organization, and then the changes that took place. So I always say with action, it's not that we have to take action on everything. It's
Mhm.
really about kind of the impact of the action rather than the size of the action that counts.
Yeah.
And it is that consistent taking of action that also counts, because then they keep remembering how important their voices are.
Mm.
And then the last step is closing the loop. And that really just says, again, that started in the customer experience phase. You hear people talk about that all the time. But this is another thing that we just drop the ball on probably the most out of everything inside this framework. And it is that we just do not follow back up with the people
Yeah.
after we've acted on their behalf
Yeah.
or after they've given us feedback. They're like, whatever happened with that?
Yes.
Happen with that? And that's what we leave people asking themselves that question. What we could do is take away that kind of second guessing, do they do anything? And we can provide proof of something we did, or say, like, we have actually considered, by the way, I brought it to the board, I brought it to the leadership team, I brought it to my manager, I brought it to whomever,
Yeah.
and we discussed what you said. So it was important enough for me to consider outside of the original feedback you gave me. And here's where we landed. It doesn't mean that where you land is exactly where they want you to land. It just means that you took the time to show your respect and their level of importance, that
Mhm.
you actually considered what they had to say. That closing the loop is so powerful, and most of us drop the ball there. So
Yeah,
that's
and
the cycle.
okay, so wow, there's so much here. So one, I love how simple, relatable, like it just gives me a way to move through this in a very easy way that doesn't feel, it just feels very natural. So I love that about it. I love when we get to the decoding, because it is that the power of that pausing and really thinking. And I love how you thought about the actions as small, because when small brave moves, we talk about we're trying to make being brave or making that next step not so big. And what about if we just what's one small thing we can do to move us forward, right? In the process, in the relationship, in the conversation, in life, whatever that is. And I love that piece. And the closing the loop, wow, that's a good one, because so many times people think they don't think about it, right? So
Mhm.
I think about closing the loop just in life in general. Like after I had a great lunch or a conversation with somebody, I send them a note or I'll shoot them a message just to let them know, like, hey, thanks. And here's something that you said that really resonated with me, or just to continue. Cause it's when you close the loop, I think about that's investing in the relationship, right? You're investing in the relationship, and that's when the results will soon follow. We talk a lot about that in Five Tough Talks. And we all appreciate this in the Five Tough Talks. Our final piece of the framework is end with accountability and action, so that it
Mm.
doesn't just become a great conversation, but no, there's some forward motion happening to continue to build that relationship.
Go do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes I get overwhelmed sometimes with, and I'll get overwhelmed with what needs to be done, and then it'll force me into inaction. And I'm like, no, 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 you're overcomplicating this, Nicole. You're right. And I know I'm not alone out there, but it happens to all of us. And so it's like, getting us to move forward with that action and the closing the loop. I just think that's brilliant as the fifth step, and such a powerful one to continue to invest in relationships. So I'll share with you a Gallup poll had a great statistic earlier in 2024 that talks about one meaningful conversation per team member per week outperforms any other leadership activity. And when I think about the closing the loop, that's part of it. It's that one meaningful conversation per week, but continuing it, right? Throughout.
Totally. Yeah, I always isn't it funny, like, the work we do, but people wanna make this a rocket science type of
Yes.
situation. Like, they're just waiting for some innovation that's gonna keep their team member endeared to them. And I'm like, "Listen, what I'm telling you, I may tell you in a slightly different way, but it's been told over the centuries," kinda thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You just need to take the time to be with people and
Yeah.
to understand who they are, where they're coming from, and to pause long enough not to have to insert, like, your opinion of the thing, or like your view, or whatever your preference is. In the end, just really try to lean in and be with them and be present. And it's not rocket science, but it does require, doesn't it? Our time, our attention, our focus. So I just recently enrolled for my first ever improv class. And I
Ooh.
did it because I'm like, I really want to just be better with my audiences. I want to be even more loose and just fun and everything with the audiences.
Yeah.
And so, but as I'm doing it, the thing that I'm recognizing already, I just finished my second session of this course yesterday. And what I'm recognizing is it is really teaching active listening at a real fundamental way. And I'm learning like, wow, I teach it, I train it. Oh my gosh, I've created a whole framework on it. But this has helped me be a better active listener because it's like the things that it's making us do and keep all these balls in the air at one time and keep
Mhm.
making sure that we're keeping track of the people in front of us and that we're locking eyes before we make it our next move. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the stuff I talk about. Just,
Yeah.
I love this. I like this a lot.
Oh, you're right, and you can't work ahead. You can't
You
work ahead of
can't.
the people that are in the scene with you, right? You can't work ahead of
No,
it, and
you
so
got to
that's
be locked in.
mhm. Yeah,
And I always
and
talk about be locked in when you're seeking, lock in.
I love that, and I think, I feel like the whole "be present" is overused, and people you can
Mhm.
say, "Well, yeah, I need to be more present in this," but that's the what, but what I like about your framework is you're teaching us the how. Not to
Mhm.
just be present, but to really move differently through our relationships, our work, our connections, our whether it's customer service, sales, our personal relationships, right? In life as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. I find that so I have a certified facilitator program so that people are certified to teach this framework. And when I would go and ask them, what were the things you find the most valuable? They're like, I'm going to be honest. It started with how much more I showed up for my kids or my family because maybe before I was again just like way too multitasking, but because I'm now I'm in a different framework. Now I'm facilitating this, so now I better not be a hypocrite. I
Yeah.
love that fact because that now we're all owning it so much more than we did
Yeah.
before. And so they're either like now I see that I'm seeing why my daughter was always frustrated. I'm seeing why my son and I were having this disconnect.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful because if they're seeing it there, it's going to spill over into work, and I just love the fact that there's that impact they're having on their own lives.
Well, and if you're a leader who's listening and you really want to grow your coaching skills, right? Your ability to really be a great leader as coach, at the heart of really, really powerful coaching is asking good questions and listening. That's it. It's asking questions and listening and helping your team members arrive at their own solution and, right, helping empower, grow, develop. And so many times we feel like we have to be directing or giving the plays. And it's like, no, we actually, right, there's so much more inside of each one of our team members than we think. And so if we have that coaching mindset, use a framework like the art of active listening so that we can really be there to help grow and develop the teams. I imagine that's going to be a game changer for some, right? To really grow that skill.
Absolutely. I think we absolutely underutilize it, and we think that it doesn't have the impact it does, and it really does. I actually think that really, truly, actively listening to another human being, it not only is the biggest gift you give them, but I really think it's the most important thing we can do for another human. I really do think so because so few of us do this and do it well that if
Mm-hmm.
we can, I don't even know if I can say master it because I'm not it's my strength. Can we ever master it?
Right, right.
Right.
Yes.
But I think that if you can be on that constant journey towards mastery of that
Yeah.
one skill and giftedness,
Yeah.
I feel like you and others will reap so many more benefits and gifts in the long run.
I love it. So talk to us about what's your next goal? What's your next move, whether it's with this framework or where you're heading with your business. And so talk to us about what that might be and what's the next small, brave move you need to make to get there.
Oh, well, I don't know if you know this, but on February 11th, my next book comes out, and it's called The Art of Self-Leadership. Here it is
Ooh,
right here, The Art of Self-Leadership.
congratulations.
Thank you. And what I love about kind of the series of these art of series that I'm doing, they all spin off from the main concept of caring leadership. So caring leadership has 9 behaviors. Listening is one of them. Self-leadership is one of them. And I'm feeling myself from the brave move perspective. I'm feeling myself being drawn into a little bit more of this personal development, self-help stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's in life for sure. I still have a special place in my heart for the workplace, but my goal is to have people understand that if they can own their own choices. They can stop waiting for other people to make choices and decisions for them. They can become more self-empowered in
Yeah.
that place. They'll have better results. They'll have more success both in work and in life. So I feel more called to go in that direction. I'm excited for it. And from brave moves, I would say for myself too, and just being at a place where I can let go of self-limiting beliefs. Which is a huge part of self-leadership, but it's a place
Yeah.
I'm constantly working on, and a lot of it has to do with self-worth. And while I put it aside and I'm good for a little bit, I come back to it. So that will be the brave move for me, is just trying to be very intentional, journaling when I'm feeling like these self-limiting beliefs are there, and also deciding for myself which one are the beliefs that somebody else gave me and which are the ones I chose to pick up.
I love that. I heard recently, and I don't remember where I heard it, but it was around the limiting beliefs, which we all deal with, right? And when I think about the limiting beliefs, it was interesting. Somebody shared, oh, yeah, when that happens, I just hit send a voicemail. I press the button, send a voicemail, so that I can pull it out of my mind. And I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and just toss that over there right now. And I'm like, well, it's definitely, I never had thought about it, but just even the like, oh, I'm going to
Yes.
send you a voicemail right now, because that's not helpful, right? In the work
Yes.
or the path we're trying to come down as well. So I
I
love
love it. I love
oh,
it too.
that's so powerful. Okay, so self-leadership. So where can our listeners find more out about your work, right? Self-leadership, the art of active listening. Talk to us about where they can find you, Heather.
I'd say, gosh, wow, 3 places probably. You can go to caringleadershiplearning.com, and that will be a place where you can find, stuff about this book and lots of other resources in Caring Leadership umbrella. You can go to heatheryounger.com, which is just me and my site speaking. It shows workshops and all the things. And then you can just follow me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is
That's
probably the
amazing.
biggest place I show up. So, yeah.
All right, so the final question, Heather, I have for you is, what's one small brave move you would suggest to a listener if they want to continue to be better, right? Stronger at self-leadership to listening. So what's one small brave move you'd recommend to a listener listening today?
I think the most important thing is the idea of finding what your values are, like writing down your top 5 values.
Mhm.
What are the things I value most? And here's why I think this is important, because when we know what we value, then we can know every other move that comes from that, every other action we take should align with that. If we feel like incongruent with something, there's something that we can't sleep at night, it's probably because we're going against one of those top values. So that would be the one small move you can take.
I love that. We talk in small brave moves around the most authentic self, about the, getting clear on your purpose, your ethos, your values. And then and where I take it in the leadership world is taking those 5 that you're talking about, whatever number it is that you come up with, and creating a leadership philosophy that really anchors you, right? That helps guide that decision making, that problem solving. So it's such a great place to start, Heather, for our listeners. And I love that you shared that. I think that's a place that we often forget about or miss, or I see people attach it to the company they're working for. Like, yep, I can sign up for your mission, vision, and values. It's like, well, what are yours? And until you do the deep work around those, I couldn't agree more. It helps guide the rest. So thank you for dropping those pearls of wisdom today, Heather. You're amazing. I appreciate you as a fellow CS peer, and I'm so grateful to have you on our show today.
Thanks for having me. Really, it's a treat.
You bet. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Small Brave Moves podcast. If you're wanting to take this work even deeper, I'm here to help. From engaging in inspirational keynote speeches to transformational coaching and workshops for leaders and teams, page-turning books, online courses, and enlightening leadership development retreats. There are so many ways that we can work together to take your leadership to the next level. For more information, check out the show notes, and let's do this together, one small brave move at a time. See you next week.